I have just had an absolute dream come true and have been offered a place in the next London Marathon. This takes place in April of 2025. For this run, I will be raising money for children with cancer in the UK. It is truly awful that anybody has to go through a cancer diagnosis and treatment, especially when we're talking about children and their affected families as well. So I wanted to jump on board, raise funds, and support them in any way that I can. Over the next 6 months, I plan to do this in a range of different ways. I'm thinking of hosting events, potentially getting into some CAMS Run Club shirt sales. I'm also looking into doing some feats of endurance to really test myself in raising these funds. I'm thinking 50 to 100 kilometer runs, all in an effort to raise as much money as possible. At no point will any of this be for my profit. 100% of these proceeds will all go directly to children with cancer in the UK. I have linked my fundraiser page in the comments below, so if you do have the means and want to support, I really would appreciate that. Something I also wanted to address in this video is why I chose London. Raising money for such an important charity really does play a huge part in this, especially as it gives me a chance to give back while doing the thing that I love. The London Marathon, for me, is the reason I started running. Anyone who has spoken to me about why I started running will know two things. First is it really did help my mental health so much. I feel less stressed, feel more calm. It helps me process thoughts. Essentially, I feel better in every way as a result. Secondly, my goal has always been to run London, to have my grandparents and Auntie Joan watching on TV live, having them cheering me on from their lounge room, and then heading up to visit them all afterwards. As the race itself is quite a big deal in the UK, I've always wanted to be able to share this memory with them. So for my journey to the London Marathon, I felt I had to go out and run the marathon distance, which I did for the first time in April of 2023 at the McLaren Vale Marathon. Before I did that, I felt I had to run the half marathon distance, which I did in February of 2023 with Jordan, so shout outs to him, because we did that in about 3 hours and it was absolutely brutal. And before all of that, I actually had to start running, which I began in January of 2023. So 21 months later, a staggering amount of runs under my belt and meeting countless incredible individuals along the way, I get to raise money for an incredible cause and get to achieve my dream all at the same time. Another even less likely dream of mine has always been to get my place in the Guinness Book of World Records. This is now something I'm hoping to achieve at the London Marathon. Every year I would get the new edition for either my birthday or Christmas and be absolutely fascinated by all the incredible different world records, usually focusing on the super weird ones. I am well aware that I will never beat the regular marathon world record. Rest in peace to Kelvin Kiptum, because he achieved this incredible feat in 2 hours and 35 seconds, which is absolutely ridiculous. With running a marathon, there is a staggering amount of different variations that you can try, which will get you your place in the book. Usually this involves some kind of crazy costume, and you become the fastest person to run a marathon in that costume. This does, however, come with its own complications, as certain costumes, especially the more popular ones, have themselves got ridiculous times. An example of this is the fastest marathon run in a Forrest Gump costume, which comes in at 2 hours and 36 minutes, which is still well out of my range, but definitely heading in the right direction. Then we've got the fastest marathon in an astronaut suit, which is 3 hours and 6 minutes. Again, still just out of my range, but pretty crazy. Then you start to get into the super impractical ones, with the fastest person to ever run a marathon dressed as a book, running the distance in 5 hours and 8 minutes, or the fastest to ever run it dressed as a fish at 4 hours and 28 minutes. With those last two, they seem a bit more in my range, but I'm not 100% sure I want to sign up to do that. So if you have any suggestions for potential world records that I could go for at the London Marathon, please be sure to reach out to me, because at this point I'm willing to try just about anything. So what is it that makes London Marathon such a big deal? Essentially, it's a televised event in one of the most iconic cities in the world, which is expected to attract 1 million spectators around the course on race day. With all that in mind, it does sound a bit overwhelming. Even saying that though, loads of people want to run, but there are only so many places. I didn't actually realize how many people apply for the London Marathon each year until I was researching for this video. But for next year's marathon, the one that I'm going to be a part of, 840,318 people all applied for London Marathon next year, which itself actually broke the world record. Of those 840,000, only 53,000 actually get a place in the race. So picture 53,000 people running across Tower Bridge straight to check in with King Charles at Buckingham Palace, with 1 million people cheering you on from the sidelines as you cross the finish line and embrace your family and friends. This is genuinely teeing up to becoming one of the best days of my life. With all of that in mind, I'm hoping you can now see why I'm actually excited to go run for hours and hours on end on the other side of the planet. It really is going to be incredible.